Hello and welcome to HARDTalk India. Although it was withdrawn quickly, Prime Minister Vajpayee's surprise resignation has become the subject of intense speculation. Was he serious? What lay behind it? And how will it impact on his record in office? With me is the Parliamentary Affairs Minister of India, a gentleman who's considered a close confidant of the Prime Minister, Pramod Mahajan. Mr. Mahajan, let's start with the Prime Minister's surprise resignation. Was it, as many have said, a political gimmick, or was he serious?
I don't think it was a political gimmick. I know Vajpayee for the last 30 years, and he's not known in the country to play political gimmicks.
So he seriously wanted to resign?
Yes, he seriously wanted to resign. He has expressed his desire to resign in the BJP parliamentary party, where I was there as a parliamentary affairs minister conducting the meeting. And suddenly, normally he doesn't speak in this meeting, he listens to the members, but suddenly he asked me that I want to speak. And then he just said that I want to resign, and he expressed his desire.
It happened suddenly, but you say it was completely serious. And yet, 1 hour later, he'd withdrawn his resignation.
No, it was serious because even after the meeting, he went to his office in the parliament. His secretary made a call to the president. They sought an appointment. And when I saw him in the office, he has a handwritten note which he wrote himself to the president. So I don't, as I know Vajpayee, I don't think he does all kinds of dramas, asking the president's appointment, writing by himself. And when one of the senior colleagues took out that note, he said, what makes a difference? I will write one more. So this whole episode, right from his expression of his desire to resign in the parliamentary party till he is withdrawn when he was pursued by the senior colleagues, his whole behavior makes me feel that he was serious and there was no political gimmick or a political shock.
But just look at it. After breakfast and before lunch, he resigns and withdraws his resignation. Serious prime ministers don't behave like that. In 2.5 or 3 hours, you resign, withdraw your resignation. It looks like, how did the opposition call it, high drama and low comedy.
You see, after expressing the desire, there were only two things to happen. Either he should have seriously expressed his desire, went to the president's house and resigned. When people talk about why he withdrew in 2 hours, I think if he has to withdraw, he should withdraw as early as possible. Because I'll let you know why we forced him to withdraw as early as possible, because there was no point in speculating throughout the day he has resigned, whether his resignation is accepted or not. As you rightly put up, he was a prime minister of a country of 1 billion people. And when he expressed his desire, the desire already was on electronic media. And so even I can say personally responsible, one of them personally responsible, to convince him that no, first he can't resign, and secondly, he can't even wait to revise his decision, because if he would have waited for a day, I think more complications would have happened.
All right, I grant you, it wasn't a political gimmick, but was it then an act of emotional blackmail designed to silence critics that he didn't know how to answer? In other words, people were asking questions, he didn't know how to answer their questions, and his only recourse was to emotionally blackmail them.
I'm not sure which questions you are talking about, because even his worst enemy will never criticize him that he doesn't know how to answer. But you see, one of the best quality we have is the best orator we have ever seen in our country.
He used to be the best orator. Increasingly of late his oratory is
even yesterday in the parliament, who has heard him on Indo-Pak summit, I think they will have the same opinion. But at this juncture, it's not a question whether he was or is an orator. The question is whether he had questions or not.
Okay, let's come to that. Let's come to some of the criticisms that have been leveled against the Prime Minister and against the Prime Minister's office. 24 hours before his resignation, Sanjay Nirupam stood up in the Rajya Sabha and virtually accused senior officials of the PMO and perhaps even the Prime Minister's own son-in-law of being involved in the UTI scam. Was the Prime Minister resigning to shut up people like Nirupam?
First thing no. Sanjay Nirupam's speech in Rajya Sabha has no relevance to Prime Minister's resignation desire.
Except that it happened exactly 24 hours earlier.
It may be, because it can be called as a last straw. The question
and your party spent the whole of the last 3 days trying to put pressure on the Shiv Sena to force Nirupam's apology.
No, I don't think, if you look at the stature of Vajpayee, I don't think even talking about Sanjay Nirupam, his apology, is worth that. So I don't think that was the issue.
Okay, let's back off Nirupam.
The issue, that's why I'm saying, the issue in Prime Minister's mind is, and that's the real problem, and that really made him anguished about the situation, is that the National Democratic Alliance, which is heading for last 3 years, one time or the another, one constituted or the another, I don't want to even single out Sanjay Nirupam as a person or Shiv Sena as a party, have always behaved in a manner that they want to have the pleasure of being in the government also, and they want to occupy the opposition space also.
Precisely.
And
the Prime Minister, when he gave
think
his resignation, said this. He said one reason why he was resigning
that's the only
is
reason.
because he failed to lead the NDA cohesively and to impose discipline.
Yes, yes, I'm not disputing that, because
Mr. Mahajan,
he said it on
those
record.
are good reasons for resigning. Those are not reasons for continuing in office. If he genuinely believed that he had a fractious alliance, that they were quarreling, that they were in fact eating into themselves, then that's the best reason for resigning and letting someone else more capable bring them together with discipline.
Right, right.
So why did he continue?
No, your question is right. But those who are so-called capable, when told them that you are more capable than me, so you can't just leave the country at this juncture and say that you choose your own leader.
There have been
The leaders who are so-called number 2, 3, 4, 5 are all probable prime ministers you may call after replacing
This is a very strange situation. As you say, the Prime Minister correctly analyzed his failure to give cohesive discipline to the NDA. Having analyzed his failure, he continues in office knowing that he can't do very much about it.
No, I don't say that. Now the time will say that whether he can do or he cannot. Wait for only a couple of months.
So you're saying the jury's out. Even
be over.
you have doubt in your mind. You can't say with certainty to me that the Prime Minister can make the NDA cohesive.
No,
you're saying time will say.
No, time will say, because there are few plans which I can't announce at this juncture when Parliament is in session. But I'm sure in next 2 months, Prime Minister will, and not only Prime Minister, now even the National Democratic Alliance, which requested him the next day to continue the leadership, has realized that this indiscipline cannot go like this. And
let me interpret that. Are you saying that something will happen in the next 2 months that will change the nature of the NDA?
I don't say nature of the NDA, the nature of the members on which the Prime Minister has an anguish, that if you have a problem, you see
Are you saying the Prime Minister has given the NDA 2.5 months to put themselves right, to set the house in order?
I don't say. I said he will show you how he will lead it. He has not given any time to
And if
NDA.
he fails, because he's had 3.5 years and he hasn't succeeded to impose discipline and to make them cohesive, so if in 2.5 months he fails, then what?
I don't think he will fail.
That's only a thought, that's a hope, that's not a guarantee.
No, that's a guarantee. You may think it a hope. For me, it's a guarantee, because I'm sure about it.
Let's take it as a guarantee. Let's come back to the issue of the charges leveled against the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office. You said that Sanjay Nirupam is just one person. He's not. 6 months ago, your own former party president publicly on television was heard by millions of people saying that Brijesh Mishra and Ranjan Bhattacharya were involved in fixing deals. Sanjay Nirupam was neither the first time, nor does it seem to be the only time that serious allegations have been leveled against the Prime Minister's office.
First thing, your quote is a complete lie. A quote is complete lie. This quote is not there. This is not on Tehelka tapes which you are referring.
On the Tehelka,
they are in deals.
let me correct you. On the Tehelka tapes, Bangaru Lakshman says that although Ranjan Bhattacharya is not involved in defense deals, he believes he has been involved in fixing power deals. And as regards Brijesh Mishra, he says, and I'm paraphrasing him, we have frequently gone to him for such things because he's involved in such matters.
See,
those are paraphrases of what he says.
As I said, the Tehelka episode is investigated at this juncture. Now, picking one sentence here and there, which has been denied by the concerned president, I can't answer the questions, but I can only say that as far as Mr. Brijesh Mishra is concerned, he works in an official capacity as the principal secretary to the Prime Minister, and nobody does deals in this government. You must also remember that till today, not even one minister has been charged with any kind of evidence as far as any kind of corruption charges are concerned.
Let's in fact talk about Mr. Brijesh Mishra. One of the promises with which this government came to power 3.5 years ago was the promise of clean government, the promise of the highest standards of probity in public life. How do you square that promise with the fact that the Prime Minister's principal secretary, his former secretary, and perhaps his son-in-law today face charges, allegations of corruption?
What are the charges? You see, in a democratic system, Anybody can make a charges. What are the charges? You talked about...
Mr. Mahajan, have you heard the English phrase, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion?
I heard it, but I'm not sure about even Caesar.
It means that people closest to Caesar should be above suspicion. If Caesar's wife should be above suspicion, what about Caesar's principal secretary? What about his son-in-law?
Why Caesar, anybody's wife should be above suspicion? That's not an issue. The issue is, in a democracy, you have opposition parties who would not like this government to continue, and if they make allegations, you can't stop them. What is the way to make? Suppose sitting here, I make an allegation on anybody, and then you say that, look, you are not above, suppose I make an allegation against you, and then say, look, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. Why you are not?
Let me give you the example of George Fernandez.
No.
He resigned. Let me finish. He resigned not because he was admitting or accepting guilt. He resigned, as he said on television, because his continuation as defense minister would have affected the morale of the defense forces. Surely that applies to Brajesh Mishra. Brajesh Mishra heads the Prime Minister's office. His continuation after allegations have been levelled twice in 6 months by people who are your allies or your former party president. In those circumstances, his continuation will affect the morale of the PMO, its integrity, and the government's reputation for clean governance.
This may be, I think we have started talking about the Prime Minister, and we have landed up talking with the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister as if that is the main issue.
Not at all. But talking about the Prime Minister's office, we're talking about the fact that the Prime Minister sought to resign 24 hours after Sanjay Nirupam levelled serious allegations against senior officials in his office.
Can you for a minute tell me what is the serious allegation which is levelled by Mr. Sanjay Nirupam against Prime Minister's office?